Why is it that the moment someone starts pulling away, you suddenly feel more drawn to them, and the moment they come closer, your interest can begin to fade? Because this confusing emotional shift is not random. It's a psychological pattern known as the push-pull effect. And once you understand how it works, you start to see it everywhere, in dating, in friendships, and even in everyday social interactions. Because at its core, the push-pull effect is driven by the brain's sensitivity to uncertainty, reward, and perceived value. And the key idea is simple. People are more emotionally engaged when something feels slightly out of reach than when it feels completely certain. And this begins with one of the most powerful mechanisms in human behavior, which is intermittent reinforcement, where rewards are given inconsistently rather than predictably. Because when someone alternates between giving attention and withdrawing it, the brain becomes more focused on trying to regain that attention, creating a loop of anticipation and desire. And this is similar to how gambling works, where the unpredictability of the reward increases engagement more than consistent outcomes. And this is why someone who is always available, always responsive, and always predictable can sometimes feel less exciting over time, not because they lack value, but because the brain has fully adapted to their presence. And when there is no uncertainty, there is no need for the brain to stay alert. And then there is the role of scarcity, because people tend to assign more value to what feels limited or less available. So when someone pulls away, even slightly, it can increase their perceived value, making their attention feel more important. And when they come back, that attention feels like a reward, reinforcing the cycle. And this creates a pattern where the emotional highs and lows become linked to the person, not just the interaction. And then there is the concept of emotional contrast. Because the brain experiences changes in emotion more intensely than stable states. So the shift from distance to closeness can feel more powerful than constant closeness. And this contrast amplifies emotional engagement, making the connection feel deeper or more meaningful than it actually is. And another important factor is psychological reactance, which is the tendency to desire something more when it feels like it is being taken away. Because when access to something is reduced, the brain perceives a loss of freedom, and this triggers a motivational response to regain it. And this is why pulling away can sometimes increase someone's interest, not because the person has changed, but because the perception of access has changed. And then there is the role of self-perception, because when you invest effort into regaining someone's attention, your brain begins to assign more value to that person, since it interprets your effort as evidence that the connection matters. And this creates a feedback loop where your own actions increase your emotional attachment, even if the other person's behavior is inconsistent. And then there is the importance of unpredictability, because the brain is highly responsive to patterns that are not fully predictable, and this keeps attention active, since it requires constant evaluation and adjustment. And in contrast, completely predictable interactions require less cognitive effort, leading to lower engagement over time. And however, it's important to understand that while the push-pull effect can increase attraction and engagement, it can also create unstable and emotionally draining dynamics if it becomes excessive or intentional in a manipulative way. Because healthy connections are built on consistency, trust, and clear communication, not constant uncertainty. And the key difference lies in balance, where there is enough space and independence to maintain individuality, but enough consistency to build trust and security. And this balance allows attraction to grow without turning into confusion or anxiety. And ultimately, the push-pull effect works because it taps into fundamental psychological mechanisms: uncertainty, reward anticipation, scarcity, and emotional contrast, all of which influence how the brain assigns attention and value. And once you understand that your feelings can be shaped by these patterns rather than purely by the person themselves, you gain a new level of awareness. And that awareness allows you to respond more consciously instead of being pulled into automatic emotional loops. And once you see how the push-pull effect operates beneath the surface, you begin to recognize when your attention is being influenced by inconsistency rather than genuine connection. And that realization changes how you interpret your own feelings. And once you understand the psychology behind it, you can't unsee it. So if this video helped you understand why this dynamic feels so powerful and gave you a new perspective on attraction and behavior, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep insights into human psychology. because once you understand how people think, you start to see everything differently.